Hi everyone, Laure here, joined by Doublelift after the big game against AHQ. What a game from you guys. It was so back and forth. Tell me about the pressure of playing such an intense game, especially against an O2 team.
There wasn't too much pressure, I'd say. Like, we had such an insane lead early. We got early Infernal. I was 3-0, and then my team started inting, so it was like way harder than it should have been, and we just... I don't even know what we're doing. Like I think a lot of the calls we were making in that game were a little bit weird because like we're not used to basically like we took a risk in the draft. We opened Kiana, and that champion, if she connects with your backline, you just die. So we like started playing really weird in the middle of the game. Like, oh, we need our Renekton to mark Kiana, and then I think that's when we started losing every single fight because like our super strong Renekton just was completely useless in every fight. So. I mean, I'm not Flaming Impact. It was like a team call, basically, right? So, like, every team fight, I was just like, oh, Orianna's, like, insta-dead, but it's fine. Like, usually Kiana goes 1-for-1 on a carry. But then I'm like, okay, but where's my, like, front line? And then I just felt like we were playing the whole game, like, really wrong, where, like, I was, like, me and Kobbe were playing, like, 2v4 on their team, and then Kiana was, like, 1v3ing our backline. It was really bizarre. So I think we just played really bad in the middle of the game. I'd say, like, Jay kind of saved the game because Xfinity saved the game with the Baron steal, and then we were like, oh, wait, like, this is how we should fight. Like, Kiana's just going to kill herself to kill one of us, either me or Orianna. That's fine. We can still win the fight afterwards. So that's kind of how we started playing afterwards, but we should have done that from the very beginning.
All right, I feel like it's a bit harsh, but it's always good to be honest about yourself. But you were talking about inting. I also feel like AHQ played poorly in team fights. Do you agree? I'm
not really sure what they did wrong in fights. Like, there's a few fights I think where... I think the main mistake that they were making was just like everyone was just running in my feathers, and so I just felt like if we had just like a little bit more damage on anybody, like the fights would have been different. You know, if you like finish a kill, that guy's like kind of out of the fight. He's not doing damage or applying pressure anymore. So a lot of the fights, I felt like they just took like a lot of unnecessary damage, but I couldn't really tell you what they were doing wrong in fights. Mostly just our side, yeah.
Your manager mentioned something on Twitter about the fact that CoreJJ was not able to ban Rumble in the last phase because of some language issue in the client. Do you think it would have changed the game?
Honestly, maybe a little bit, but like, I wouldn't say like we got outdrafted or anything because of that. It was just kind of annoying. It was like, oh, we should have been Rumble, and then they blinded it. It's like their go-to top laner pick. In my opinion, like Renekton is a little bit less useful in team fights than Rumble, obviously. But like as the game goes on, Rumble becomes like more and more useless because there's just a lot of like random mobility in the game, so it's just easy to get out of his stuff. Like, yeah, that's kind of how we thought about it. It's like, oh, it's okay. They get this pick, but we get a strong pick as well.
Right now, round 1 is done. You're 2-1. What are your expectations for round 2?
If we play like that, we're gonna go 0-3 with the NA curse. But like, honestly, like I think we're capable of playing like a lot better. It's really crazy. Like I just can't believe how bad we were playing that game. I think the way that our team works is on our best day we can beat anyone, and on our worst day we can like literally lose to anyone. And like I think that game we really deserved to lose it. Like we were doing everything we could to lose it, and we're really frustrated with ourselves for sure. So, and after this interview, I'm gonna go back and get spanked by the coaches. So we are definitely gonna play a lot better in week 2. That's the goal.
You know what you did wrong. You have a few days to work on this. So a win is a win anyway. Congratulations on this one. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laure. I do want to talk about that game just a little bit more, even though we're going to set up for Splyce versus FPX in just a second. Jad, a lot to unpack in that interview as well.
Yeah, and I think there's just so much history behind the way Doublelift was speaking, and I feel like you could feel how nervous he had been during that game because, I mean, even me watching it, there was a fight in the mid lane, I'm like, oh no, he died with Flash Up again. What's that going to mean for the next 4 months? Right? Yeah. Because that's what he experienced in past World Championships. So I hope that Doublelift can calm his nerves for the next time they play, because as he mentioned, on their best day they can win. They were in winning positions of all 3 games, and they're also in losing positions of all 3 games. All 3 of their games have been close.
But you have to appreciate a raw interview like that. That's really raw, not mincing any words, you know, choosing his words carefully to respect his teammates. That's the evolution of Doublelift. I don't think he gives that interview 3-4 years ago when he was in similar scenarios. And now, you know, the next few days will be interesting.
Indeed. Very looking forward to what we're going to see from TL. Wonderful interview from Doublelift. We are going to focus in on our next game, a Group B clash between Splyce and FPX. And while Splyce flew out of the gates swinging, the LPL champions got off to a bit of a rough start, losing to J-Team Frost.
Yeah, if you'd said this before the tournament, everyone's like, FPX, easy. They just in-select the predictions, they look away. But after LWX really dropped the ball with a lot of his positioning, some very bizarre drafts, and just to echo your sentiment, like, while it was bizarre to fans, this is actually quite expected if you watch FPX, but the execution of it was so all over the board.
Exactly, and the execution is something you can kind of just shrug away and try to retake on another day.
We're just going to make you watch this again instead, Papa.
Well, yeah, we're going to look at some, yeah, okay. I don't want to watch this. Put it away, please.
Talk about
Burn it with
FPX.
fire. Let's just play Raz's audio from when he said it was going to be an easy group. That's
I'm
fine.
sorry to interrupt your point. Go ahead.
But at the end of the day, like, it feels like execution can be adjusted easily. And that's the sort of thing where a mental refresh might be enough to get them back on. Because I hope they don't throw out their drafting style and pick to a perceived tournament meta. Because Doinb teams play a certain way. They need to continue doing that.
Yeah, and I think that Castro did a great job explaining before the day. I'm sure they'll talk about FPX's overall play style in the draft. And what I feel like we're going to see in this game is how valuable is this one game sample size going to be? Because a lot of us weren't having a discussion of whether or not FPX would make it out of the group. We were discussing whether or not they would go 6-0. And clearly we know the answer to the second question, and now the question will be, can they beat Splyce? Because Splyce did look good in day one.
And here's the thing, Spawn and I had this conversation on Dysphoria, and it all focuses on Doinb and his champion pool. We keep talking about the weird drafts, but the thing is like, if Doinb doesn't have a weird pick that fits into this meta, FPX will fall flat. Can Doinb break it or shape it to him? And if the answer is no, then I think we might have an LGD 2015 situation on our hands.
That's some heavy words.
Cursed words. But now, we talked before this, and you guys still really heavily think that FPX is going to take this game, but I want to take some time to talk about Splyce Frost. If this is a Splyce win, what does it look like?
So exactly as you're saying, we haven't given up hope on FPX yet, don't have the sample size. If we are on the other side of this and it's a Splyce victory, I want to focus on Humanoid. I think his champion pool is very much in meta right now. Syndra is getting a lot of respect, and Humanoid is such a talented laner on a lot of powerful champions.
And Duke is on the record talking about how he didn't like the stylistic match specifically against teams like GAM, who they already beat, and then today FPX. What I saw from them in that game against GAM was a lot of great scouting wards in spots that spot roams. Doinb's natural style, whatever the picks is, priority in mid, push, and combine with Tian, the jungler. If they can get that spotting, if they can make it a square, slow game, then the chances for Splyce continue to rise.
We'll see. Let's send it back to Atlas, Azale, and Spawn for Game 3.
Thank you so much, Sharks, and here we are for game number 3. FPX, gentlemen, can they finally get back on the board, or is the 1-0 Splyce going to make it a 2-0?
I mean, let's be honest. You can't count them out after one game, right? I think that this team was absolutely insane in the LPL, winning over RNG in the finals, ridiculously dominant throughout the regular season. One poor game on the international stage when so many of these young players have never been here. It does not throw away a year's worth of success.
Yeah, look, I absolutely agree, especially when you take into account how they lost and the basic mistakes they were making. That looked just like a shocking game.
Yeah.
And everyone has shocking games every now and again, so I think that they will be able to run this one back. And I also don't think you can read as much into Splyce's victory as people seem to be doing. Normally GAM does bring this hectic, all-in-your-face style. But what they ran against Splyce was a zero-engage, strange melee, weird comp that they weren't able to execute on. Yeah, sure, Splyce throughout the game, they punished them, they beat them handily. But I think that was as equal to the Marines' fault as Splyce playing well.
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say, maybe they should have drafted more engage or whatever, but at the same time, we can't fault Splyce for their opponent's mistakes,
absolutely.
right? And I think Splyce, thus far, has kind of checked all the boxes you can ask, and I'm really excited to see how well they can perform here against FunPlus, because if you take down them, then really, Splyce could easily be taking top of the table in this group, and I think that is a very exciting prospect for all of the LEC fans.
Stop selling my LMS boys J-Team short, man. No way are they the favorites if they win this game. However,
they could go too.
I do think that they have got a really great draft so far for what they're being put together.
I was going to say, guys, there has been a draft that's been happening this entire time. FunPlus Phoenix on our blue side here, as they are going to lock in the Kaiser, and a lot of LPL fans have now clinched just a little bit because we have the shotgun back on forward, and LWX certainly did not look like the greatest performer in their previous game. But can they now about face and fix this one and give LWX a chance to show us exactly what he's capable of?
Yeah, and that's what we're going to have to find out. But Doinb locking in his Ryze. This is something he is famous for in the LPL, but it's much more about the side lane play for him. He is a guy who really popularized the Righteous Glory on the Ryze, going with things like the Ryze as well, more utility to be in the face of their opponents, chasing them down the side lane, a little bit of added tankiness there as well. So certainly will be really exciting to see him bringing it out here today.
And I said, whilst we were talking about, the fact that he is back on the Kai'Sa, domestically, he was a very good Kai'Sa player. Once again, I don't want us to be too overreactionary to this pickup, because I think that a lot of LPL fans would actually be like, this is a perfect draft. We've gotten rid of Xayah, we've got Kai'Sa for ourselves. This is the best AD carry for LWX to play that shotgun playstyle.
Yeah, as far as I know, yesterday actually, his first game at Worlds was his first loss.
Yeah,
on it, right? He was, I believe, 10-0 coming into Worlds on the Kai'Sa. So certainly, that is his bread and butter. And we'll have to see if he can perform well here today.
Well, the respect for Crisp is coming in as the Alistair and the Blitzcrank both banned away. So far, it's been Ming of the Chinese supports that's really liked the Blitzcrank. In fact, in 100% of his games, he's picked that one up as FPX going to be targeting that AD carry position. It's going to be the Jhin and the Ezreal taken away from Kobbe as we're going to look towards the fourth pickup. I do want to talk about Splyce here just a little bit because Xerxe, fantastic on the Gragas. Vizicsacsi, we know, very shallow champion pool, but one of those champions is definitely the Gangplank. They are very happy with what they have at the moment, and Tristana locked in. A lot of flexibility now for Splyce.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, while you would normally think of Tristana as kind of the solo lane pick, regionally at least, Splyce did use it as a bot laner there for Kobbe. So I would be interested to see, is it actually going to be a flex pick for them, or will it simply be that bottom lane pick? And Leona, a pretty bold choice, I have to say, into Thresh. I do think if Norskeren is on point, you can flay out a lot of the Zenith Blades and deny some of these potential all-ins, which could make it difficult for that Leona to really find a lot of success.
And I do think that is similar to the matchup that you see against Nautilus. However, what we saw yesterday when Mickey picked up the Leona was a masterclass in how to take over one of those games. And this is an old school counter pick if this is mid lane Veigar. However, could potentially still be in the AD carry position.
Yeah, Baby Cage and Box actually very similar size. So kind of fun for controlling space.
I got nothing to say to that. But
what do you mean?
Well, it's going to be mid. I am expecting. As I said, Kobbe, traditionally the Tristana player for the team, but not even just in the Ryze, which it is a great pick into. I just think, when you're looking over at the FunPlus composition, short-range AD, 3 melee champions, Ryze is relatively short-range as well, and that just complicates so many of the team fights when you are trying to dive forward. It's so much protection there for the Tristana, as well as that Gangplank, and it is, in fact, actually going to be the Veigar bot there for Kobbe.
Thankfully, I get to see my Event Horizon and Box combination earlier on into this game, as it is going to be Kobbe picking up that Veigar. So far, we have seen Veigar's played in the carry position on the bottom side of the map thus far. The thing I like about FunPlus Phoenix's composition is that there's damage coming out from multiple areas. So it's not just going to be all about LWX as we get into our third game of the day. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Summoner's Rift for FPX versus Splyce. The Chinese #1 seed, FPX, really did get the hearts of so many fans over in the LPL with their unique style, but now Splyce, they make their way up through the play-ins. They narrowly make it in after a bout against UOL that took them the whole distance, now trying to escape from that 0-1 scoreline.
And I think that FPX have recognized some of the deficiencies in their comp. As you were pointing out, getting into this game, Atlas, some more damage there to be able to play what has been a more spread out meta and unwillingness of teams to be able to move and fight you at times. However, I do want to talk about the control on the Splyce comp. I always talk about this, but when you have something else that is good as disengage with Gragas, you have so many options in being able to go forward and backwards in these compositions. The reason I value... Hold the thought.
Yeah, Tian could search for a Q, but Humanoid's going to be able to walk away.
Okay, the reason I value Gragas so high is because he has one of the best abilities of going forward and backwards in these compositions. And I think you were hitting on it as Ale, but the range of the Tristana, coupled with a Thresh, coupled with a Veigar, is going to make Humanoid so hard to deal with as this game progresses.
It certainly is, but where I'm kind of most interested is, with this exhaust Ryze, traditionally you think of Doinb's Ryze as kind of that side lane split push threat. Will he still be able to feel confident to be going to the side lanes, not bringing TP? Because you would want to say Ryze wins the 1v1 against GP at pretty much all stages. You certainly can win the 1v1 in the side lane against a Tristana.
GimGoon looking like he's winning the 1v1 against Vizicsacsi at the moment, but after the minions have got their word in, it's going to be pretty even. Continue.
I agree with you, and I think additionally, given the fact that we've seen Doinb build into Righteous so often, and he is going to be against double AD solo lane, so that build will make a lot of sense. What I was going to mention with the heavy trading in the top lane is the fact that this pretty much invites jungle intervention early, and I like the path that Xerxe has gone for that. He's been able to pick himself up. He's blue buff moving towards the top side of the map, just shadowing Xerxe up there and making sure that this is going to be an isolated 1v1. And the sustain from Gangplank through grass, through that corrupting potion and biscuits makes this form of trade pattern really nice for the Gangplank early.
Yeah, I completely agree, right? When you're trading out that flash charge for health potion, that is great for the Gangplank. And if Renekton ever loses control of that minion wave, it starts to get really difficult to farm because you're getting farmed out by these grass procs, but a nice hook here.
Yeah, max range hook, Dark Matter comes down, Crisp half health, absolutely fine though.
That's what I was going to say, because it's all about the trading pattern. When you trade as a Gangplank, it's just a single target ability that gives you the health back. When you're Renekton, you have to play in the wave, you have to be able to use that Q on the champion, but as well as the minions to be able to sustain yourself up. And you can see now he's pushing, and Xerxe's here.
Fantastic positioning. The flash forward from GimGoon just gets first blood solo. That's how you escape the gang, because he's not going to escape it for too long, but still, you'll take those.
Yeah, certainly will. The only problem here is his wave is not in a great spot. That's a full HP cannon. Unfortunately for Vizicsacsi, that minion does get into the wave there and into the turret. But, GimGoon now is kind of pressured to actually go back and TP.
It is going to be a 2v2 as they meet in the mid lane here. The Sonic Wave is going to connect as Humanoid flashes, but doesn't get far enough. Teleport in now from FPX as they are trying to commit. But Xerxe with the body slam with the flash gets himself towards his top laner and to relative safety.
And FPX fans would have big smiles. Already that early game proactivity. And we mentioned the fact that, top lane is frozen, but now Humanoid's wave is just destroyed. It's going to be eaten by that turret. Take another look at this first blood. This is just GimGoon understanding that he's probably in threat and he needs to trade aggressively if he's going to win out on this.
Yeah, I completely agree. Vizicsacsi, it seemed like he was trying to bait that for the Gragas, but underestimating perhaps the limits of that Renekton. And had this mid lane scuffle not actually occurred, this pulls Gragas down, which allows the safety of knowing you can go back to that top lane. But this is just a nice play here from Doinb and Tian, who is, in my opinion, probably the best LPL jungler this year, someone who certainly has not gotten a lot of attention internationally yet.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And I do want to talk about maybe a damage miscalculation, because we've seen a lot of Conquerors being built on Renekton. However, this is press the attack. So maybe just not used to kind of the damage calc that was coming across there. It was just a slither of hell that did mean that Xerxe fell down.
Yeah, we need to talk about Tian's Lee Sin as well. His Lee Sin has been legendary, even in their match against Kingzone at Rift Rivals. It was so exciting. His Lee Sin plays were absolutely outstanding. Really exciting to see, and this is exciting as well as Humanoid down towards the bottom side. The man in question is forced underneath this turret. The baby cage is beautiful. The double play back, and they're executed as Splyce a gorgeous turret dive. They're not even done yet now as Crisp underneath here, and he's just getting baited around, all too easily taken down as Splyce with 4 members. Very comfortable under the turret.
Turn off the nameplates and tell me which team is which, because that is an FPX play. The 4-man bot dive was their bread and butter throughout the LPL all year long, and Splyce making it happen. That was beautiful use of that box from the Veigar.
Yeah, Doinb now heading top lane. However, I do want to say that that's another clanger from LWX. He flashed into the body slam. Hold the thought, however.
Yeah, looking for a dive here. The teleport going to come in from Splyce to try and defend their top laner. Vizicsacsi still looking for it as Doinb. Turret shot is going to follow him. Does have that AoE damage, of course, when you do get that spell flux down, but isn't going to get baited in, just trying to clear out some minions, and Splyce do ease the tension as we have a look at the replay of the bot lane dive.
So you already know this is happening because you have the Predator, and LWX flashing over the baby cage is so much damage guaranteed now by the Gragas.
I've got to say, though, that's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because he flashed the hook, and if you get hit by that hook, I think you are doomed no matter what.
So then save the summoner spell so you can lane for the next 5 minutes, because right now that is now the most repeatable play in League of Legends. You've got Flash available on Norskeren, you have it available on Kobbe. They can guarantee both forms of CC now, and LWX, he's in big trouble.
Yep, possible Flash cages available now for Kobbe if he wants them. We'll be checking in with that bottom lane relatively soon as Doinb makes his way back mid. The phase rush online on this Ryze, able to catch up with people during this mid game. We'll see whether FPX is going to be able to get that one done as Tian makes his way towards the top side. Vizicsacsi ults the wave. He now can't use it as Tian just completely throws the Q away. And that's going to allow Vizicsacsi to survive as Crisp now just hanging around in the cage is going to survive. Thankfully, the duration of the Eclipse going to be helpful as Norskeren searching for a Q, but not even going to look for it. Does have the flay there onto LWX, but can't get any damage.
I mean, that was just a terrible Q from Tian, honestly. You know, there's no flash on Vizicsacsi. You know that there's not there. So, yes, he's going to be able to pop his orange when he does get stunned up. Slight delay there, and that's really what you're looking for, even just leading him by a bit to, at the very least, force him to turn back into the Renekton.
And once again, I would love to draw everyone's attention down into the bottom side of the jungle, because this is Humanoid once again getting priority, pushing in to the bottom portion of the map, and that means the structure is coming under fire.
Yeah, Doinb going to jump all the way in. Humanoid, in fact, as Doinb is going to get shut up. The explosive charge is going to go off and not going to find too much, but they do get the exhaust out from Humanoid.
And if you're an FPX fan, this is a very concerning game. I mean, Splyce are just dominating. You know, this sort of a lead this early on with the composition that they have, the Veigar, the Gangplank, as well as the Tristana all scale incredibly well. Splyce is dominating the map 8 minutes in.
And it's in the bottom side. You know, this is an area that we expect FPX to just have an outright advantage. We talk about Kobbe, we talk about his consistency, his ability to team fight, but we don't normally talk about the fact that he's going to take 3 plates in 8 minutes on Veigar. So, I mean, this is just a complete turnaround performance from what we've been seeing from this team.
And it also looks like a little bit of a mental explosion on LWX's side. You can see second lowest gold in the entire game. Hasn't really found himself after a disappointing first game. You mentioned Isaac, he's very comfortable on this pick, but hasn't been able to transition it to the world stage. Is now FPX setting themselves up for a dive on the top side of the map. Vizicsacsi knows exactly what's going on. The kickback, that Q's going to land as Doinb should be able to grab the kill, but it's GimGoon delivered it on the Renekton.
And why is everyone burning Flash when they're dead? That's another summoner spell where there is no way Xerxe is living. They all have Flash be able to follow up and chase him down after the fact. I think that these weak side plays have just been very lackluster so far from these teams.
Yeah, certainly the case, and you know, he is going to go down. It is going to be FPX taking some plates up here on the top side, but definitely not all bad for Splyce. They take the dragon. They will get first turret here still. You know, Xerxe able to take away some of the jungle camps here on that bottom side. So
They've
Splyce
got so many plates, guys. All the plates going to be taken on the bottom side as Splyce do manage to take that first turret, and Humanoid's been getting a hell of a lot of work done in that mid lane. Only 2 plates remain over there as well. The top side, they've still got 5.5 minutes in order to get there, as FPX will be able to take down their first turret of the game.
However, bottom lane is pushing back to Splyce right now. So CS is being lost on the map. If you are FPX, you're not farming all 3 waves. That is shared gold amongst 3 carries. And you have to say the isolated gold onto Humanoid as well as Kobbe at this stage is certainly beneficial. Not only are they 1,500 gold in the lead, but the specific carries they're on is probably accelerating them to maybe not where you would expect them to be at this early start of the game.
Yeah, the Hextech GLP also, you know, coming through here for Kobbe, and that is really where this Veigar pick starts to really turn on, right? You have such an incredibly large slow with that. It's not every day you see a support soloing out the rest scuttler there. But you can start to really set up your own cages, right? You hit them with the slow, you walk forward with that glacial augment, you're often able to force summoners, you're able to force cooldowns coming out because they aren't otherwise able to escape the cage.
And whilst being small in stature, with the magical footwear, he's a speedy little bugger as well. He just runs towards you. He can't really get away. He's strapped as a leprechaun this time around. But I do like the topside control from Splyce. They've been able to get so much done on the bottom side of the map. They have Gangplank's ultimate available once again. So setting up around the Herald, especially with the priority they've been able to gain over mid lane and top lane, means this should be a free objective.
Yep, Splyce going to be able to confirm that one for you there, Spawn. Should be able to push them ahead also because, like you were talking about, this game just feels so accelerated. It means these plates still going to be available for another 4 minutes. Sorry, 3 minutes. I tell a lie, but still quite a lot of time to get Shelly in the right spot to get as much money as possible. And it looks like that is going to be top side of the map for Splyce.
Yeah, it really is. And at any time, honestly, as Splyce, when you have a Renekton and a GP kind of low on farm, but trading farm on the opposite side, the GP is going to be favored pretty heavily in that. We've seen Vizicsacsi multiple times now dropping the ult to just clear out waves, buying time for his squad to get more up on that top side.
Look at this. It's just so many plates being taken. There's only 3 left on the map for Splyce to even get. As far as an acceleration of game pace, this is ludicrous, and it's coming from the team that has an infinite scaling bottom lane AP carry and a Tristana. Just insane as we have an attack into the mid lane as well as Humanoid going to be taken down. Crisp trying to get his say as now Doinb takes a plate for himself.
And a good response play here, however, Doinb does need to be able to get out.
Yeah, will he be able to get into his realm warp? The answer is no, but flashes to safety over that wall. Going to expend the summoner spell to keep himself alive, and FPX are going to be able to take down this outer turret bot side of the map as well.
However, fairly nicely navigated there from Doinb. You would take that. It is going to be a flash-for-flash trade, and he is able to pull over the attention. Now the goal does become, however, can you keep this mid lane turret up? We've spoken about how important it can be, but I feel like if Splyce get the mid lane turret, they will just be able to press into the jungle and create any fight they want at this stage of the game.
Yeah, it is certainly the case, but getting that kill on Humanoid does kind of push back the clock on that a little bit, and Humanoid certainly is going to want that one back. Had the Buster Shot to perhaps deny the Zenith Blade, had the Flash available to try to avoid the ultimate, so certainly was the ability there for him to dodge out on that, but not able to pull it off and does go down.
And I think this is a strength we're seeing of Leona. Out of Fog of War, her chain CC individually is just so oppressive to be able to deal with. Multiple times yesterday, Mickey didn't even allow the Nautilus to get the Aftershock off through an auto attack before he was blown up. And I think that's another one of those situations where you think you have topside control, but the gank was very successful.
Well, LWX going to reposition towards this mid lane as we crest the 13-minute mark. Norskeren coming on down here. Can fake out with a lantern to make sure that he gets them out of the way, but it looks like we do have a 1-3-1 style of composition working out here on the Splyce side. You can see Vizicsacsi just moving towards top side and Humanoid gravitating towards the bottom waves.
Yeah, and while I think, Splyce are happy to sit in the side lanes for now, eventually this team comp is going to want to group up, right? That is where they are most successful. GP can hold waves, but they are not going to win this game, through side lane pressure, whereas I think there's going to be more pressure on Doinb to be getting things done with that, but because he's not playing teleport, it becomes incredibly risky, right? You see Doinb showing up on the top side as the dragon spawns. Well, guess what? That Splyce is for free. They know that there's no chance of a contest. So, especially once you get past that 20-minute mark, without teleport, you're often in pro play just forced to stick with your team.
However, he is going to be able to generate a lot of kill threat for himself, and I think that's how he has to play the game. He's the one member on his lineup that isn't set significantly behind, is equal with his counterpart, and needs to be able to have a classic Doinb game of being able to facilitate plays through very fast rotations and creative use of that Ryze ultimate, because I agree, it doesn't go as far, but at this stage you can see topside control, maybe a play onto Veigar, something like that is still available.
Yep, and Doinb going to be able to steal away the red buff pretty comfortably as well. So he's going to get over that wall, get himself out of any trouble, and in fact, he wasn't in any trouble to begin with. See whether this Ryze is going to be exactly that carry that you were talking about already with the Seraph's Embrace transformation complete. See what the next item is going to be. It will be a very late Rod of Ages if it is indeed going to be one, as the Zenith Blade actually blocked by the Event Horizon. As FPX hold onto that turret, but someone's got to breathe on it on Splyce's side to take that one down.
And maybe the first time ever that you've been like, thank goodness for Event Horizon as Leona, because otherwise he was zooming into the enemy team there. Definitely would have fallen down, I feel. You can see they really want this turret.
Well, there's the Solar Flare. Does get the stun there onto Xerxe, but once again, another Event Horizon's going to be working out as Tian's going to take that one. The box now comes in. The zone controls there as LWX once again presses the R button quite early, but this time it's going to work out. The shutdown, but the Event Horizon's there. The barrel is stunning right into the waiting arms of Splyce, and they even it all out.
And you can see just how strong that zone control is for Splyce. Not only the Event Horizon, but the Glacial Augment, and now Doinb locked in here as well. Kobbe playing it out very, very well on this mage bot.
And that was a genuine 4v5. Gangplank didn't even rotate into the fight, just dropped the ultimate, created another zone, and now is continuing to farm up. You can see that he's 22 CS above his counterpart. And as we take another look at this is just why you cannot come from one direction versus this team, because the amount of zone control available for the Veigar and the inability to dash through it, not to mention the Flay, the Gangplank ultimate, the box. There's just so many tools to successfully disengage.
I mean, even the slow, look at LWX trying to disengage away from that while slowed up by the Glacial Augment. He can barely move. And then the cage comes back up again, a nice ult in, and the shutdown going over to Kobbe, who is very, very rich at this point in the game. You know, richest member sitting at 7,700 gold ahead, 2,500 up on LWX.
Glad we got to see it tick over to 7,777 as well. That was very, very cool. But Norskeren also played that last fight about as optimally as you possibly could as the one person on the team that died, right? He managed to buy so much time, so much space, waited for that Event Horizon cooldown, and delivered the top laner over to Splyce. Really beautiful stuff from a man that has had a bit of criticism recently.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. And I think that on the one, hold the thought.
Possible fight going to come in here as the face check from Humanoid. Not quite enough damage for the 100% from Tian, but he is going to get that safeguard. Buster shot, but trades! Lands that Q! That was a beautiful one! And the FPX jungler's going to get it. Doinb also picks up an assist, but that was all Tian as we do get the root, but the rest of Splyce are going to come in. Doinb trying to be that one-man army. The box is down, the Event Horizon in, the space trying to be controlled, but Doinb doesn't care. Now Tian finds Vizicsacsi as Crisp is going to get on top as well. Doinb's distracted, looking for the pirate, but takes the lantern, and the Void Seeker is going to be blocked by the minion wave. Splyce narrowly avoid disaster.
Yeah, Doinb flexing those muscles, showing off the righteous glory here for the first time, catching up to Humanoid, taking him down, and then just straight up fighting his way out of what looked like it was going to be a great TP flank from Vizicsacsi.
And because of the way Ryze's kits work, you know, the repetitive shields, the fact that you have so much mana for the Xerxe, he is so deceptively tanky at this stage of the game with the Mercury treads, with that Righteous Glory. You can see they did not want to prioritize him, but he just 1v3s the back end of the fight, is able to create so much distance for everyone else to be able to turn on Xerxe.
And this is the Doinb build at work as we have a look at the face check one more time. Tian playing this about as perfectly as you can.
Yeah, certainly did. However, I'm not sure I agree with kicking him towards a wall when you have a ward available. But from this point, actually, we're not going to see the rest of it. It was all about Doinb being able to turn around with that machine gun Ryze.
Well, now Splyce going to try and reset this map. You can see they have about 1,000 gold lead, which is approximately nothing, ladies and gentlemen. See whether FPX can pull things back. It is 3 turrets to 2. So as far as control of the map, Splyce are going to be ahead.
However, whilst we've been talking about the fact that Splyce have this this team-wide lead, Doinb as an individual is now 50 CS up over his counterpoint. Whilst he can't join every fight, majority of action has been around him so far, and I expect him to continue to play that top side of the map and control the area.
I definitely do, and I think that's why it's going to be up to Splyce to fight away from Doinb, right? You attack the other side of the map, knowing he doesn't have the teleport. Park Gangplank, allow him to drop ultimates defensively, allow him to just be the one to wave clear, and try to stay away from that Ryze, because if he is not in the fight, Splyce are massively ahead.
Well, Splyce are going to move on to this Mountain Drake as well, flexing like you say. Their advantage is Tian's going to land a Q, but he's going to get hit by the hook, just destroyed where he stands. The rest of Splyce able to get out of there, but do they even want to as they're winning this fight? Solar Flare is decent, but Humanoid says goodbye, Leona! And GimGoon has to run the hell out of the way. Humanoid says no as he flashes after him. The exhaust is going to come in. And now the Crocodile gets into Fog of War, but he's not going to save himself from the Death Chamber. Xerxe, cool guys don't look at explosions as he turns him into a handbag.
And once again, it is the zone control of the Splyce comp reigning supreme. You can see the layering of CC, the inability to get in onto that backline, and the superior range of Tristana, just unstoppable in these fights.
Yeah, it was what looked like a clever engage there from FPX as they sent Crisp into the backline, utilizing Doinb's ultimate, but Tian on the other side, you know, it's supposed to be this pincer move, right? Where Crisp is coming in from the back, but Tian gets hooked up and just absolutely exploded before he can do much of anything. LWX is slowed by the Glacial Augment on the outside of the fight and really just cannot get there to dish out the damage.
Both Doinb and LWX were limping towards the members of Splyce.
But you can see the power of new Ryze's kit and the ability to teamfight on this champion. Previously, it would have taken 2 iterations of that Q to spread the flux. It was forcing multiple flashes away from the zone of the team fight, because otherwise Doinb's damage would have been so much higher.
Well, we'll see whether Doinb can get it back, because 1,000 damage isn't going to do it. This might, as Vizicsacsi takes a bit there, as Tian's going to find Xerxe, but has to safeguard to get himself over the wall. Baron now on the minds of Splyce as they're 2,000 gold in the lead, and they have a hell of a lot of damage.
However, you do now have a small window where you have teleport advantage, and it is actually going to be the Renekton able to put out a lot of side lane pressure. So I'm interested to see how Splyce respond to that. Right now, it looks like a push down mid lane.
Yep, and now Kobbe with the spooky ghosts, he's got the super soaker, he has his timepiece as well, he's got all the activatable items that you want as this glacial augment Veigar. It's so difficult to close the distance on this guy, also so hard to sneak up on him because of those ghosts that rocket out.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it feels like for now, FPX are the ones kind of feeling the pressure to be engaging. And anytime you're going to be engaging, it just makes the Veigar's job so easy. Utilizing that box defensively is much easier than it is to kind of find the offensive picks, even though you can still do it with that glacial augment. And Splyce is just pulling further and further ahead. Now over 3,000 gold up. They have 3 dragons to nothing, and they are working towards this kind of late game stage.
And they've taken everything they want for now. I mean, soon the responsibility will pass to Humanoid. And Humanoid is so much of a reason why I feel like Splyce have such a terrific early game. Hold the thought, are they going to go for this one? They have cheated members over. However, it does look like Recall is going to complete here. And so if Humanoid does get one more item, he gets that rapid fire cannon, all of a sudden, sieging becomes a breeze on this composition. You just set Humanoid up as your turret, you defend him with your multiple boxes, as you were saying before the game, and no one can engage on him.
Yeah, it's really the case. I mean, it's so easy to just walk up to the turret, you drop a box kind of on/behind the turret, they have to back up, you have Lantern on your Tristana who has incredibly long range. There's really very few ways to actually be able to find that sort of an engage.
I'm really getting confused about which box you're talking about as well, as FPX trying to get out of one box into the other, as now the engage has started. Crisp with a beautiful Zenith Blade finds the Solar Flare as well out of nowhere, as Doinb's damage finally coming to the fore. It's a decent disengaged barrel there, but Tian still at half health is going to survive. Kobbe not so lucky.
And this time it is the shotgun working, successfully counting out damage abilities, and the prediction from Chris on the ultimate there did allow them to continue the fight. It is only one pick, however, and you can see how hard it is to get onto this Splyce comp. They have so many disengage tools.
Yeah, they certainly do, and the problem is they didn't get anything more, as you're saying, right? You want to try to get that pick and turn it into a Baron, but Splyce disengaged so incredibly well that it was never really the possibility. And every moment that passes, it is Humanoid getting closer and closer to those additional items.
Well, Kobbe is going to respawn, teleports to the mid lane, and now 5 members of Splyce once again are going to be grouped up, and FPX are going to back away.
And now, because there wasn't a tempo reset that came out from Tian as a jungler, Splyce feel like they actually have the superior health numbers and can set up for this Baron. It's going to be an approach from the jungle. This is exactly how Splyce wants to play the fights.
Yeah, it's already down to half health. No killer instinct available as Splyce continue to have control of these fights. Event Horizon now on cooldown. FPX with an opportunity, but they're not going to go for it. The Baron going to reset, and Splyce going to back away for now.
Yeah, I think smart call there from Splyce with Doinb threatening the flank. It could have been very difficult as the Veigar cage was down and they could have kind of collapsed from multiple sides. You can see the Ryze now coming through here from Doinb. Again, this is a little bit of his flair showing through. He really does enjoy the combo of the Righteous Glory and the Ryze, speed himself up, slow them down, and play these kind of skirmish-heavy games where you are chasing down people and utilizing your damage that is going to really shine through in these extended fights.
Will mean that Leandri's damage going to be ridiculous when it comes in next item as well. So Doinb with the extra health from that as well, and the fact that you can shred health bars, certainly going to mean that Doinb's going to be a tanky man and certainly a threat on this map as well.
I also just love it into something like a Gangplank, because normally Gangplank successfully disengages from Ryze so easily. You prep a keg and then you just eat the oranges when you get that empowered CC. However, certainly is going to be in range of being chased down now that the itemization has come across. I feel like itemization is something that looks to be solved. However, potential trades.
Splyce might just be going for the Baron here. This is a pretty big commitment.
Warp, FPX going to get to the mid lane at least, as Splyce took way too long to start off this Baron. You can see FPX know exactly what's going on as they have the Rift Scuttle vision. Splyce are going to back away, get themselves into this brush as the cage Not going to be successful there coming out from Kobbe.
But Atlas, it's not only that, it's the fact that they don't have great Baron damage at this stage of the game. This is only a 2-item Tristana. Humanoid is not the member that is accelerated in the game. He's like 50 CS behind the clock of where he would probably want to be right now. You can see the lack of teleport also hurting him by not being able to pick up all these side lane farms. So I do feel like that is a slower Baron than Splyce might have thought they had at this stage of the game.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. And the use of the Realm Warp there also critical to kind of shorten the window that they had to actually take that. So, FPX successfully do navigate that situation and grab themselves a dragon here. Still sitting behind though, and items are coming through. Zeal now on there for the Tristana, getting close to that critical 3 items that you talked about earlier with the rapid fire. But the Essence Reaver plus the Triforce done for Vizicsacsi means he's sitting on max CDR, and you can become stronger and stronger in these team fights because he's going for this AD heavy build that scales incredibly well into the late game.
However, I know I keep going back to it, but Doinb is now nearly at 5 completed items as far as solo carry's gone, and the way he's been able to navigate this game. 2-0-4 on his Ryze. He's going to be the late game first out of everyone on the map, despite his team being 3,000 gold down. And I feel like the changes to Ryze's kit meant that he is now a much better team fight than he was in the past, and certainly has the possibility to take over this game.
He's the highest level in the game as well. As we have a look at total gold, he's second just behind Kobbe as well, who's 2-1-4 and has had a great game on this Glacial Augment Veigar. Splyce, though, still will have control. It just feels like slowly but surely FPX are shifting the onus back into their camp. It feels like they are so threatening with Doinb at the helm. Splyce now, once again, starting off this Baron. They are flirting with it over and over again, trying to get themselves into the best position possible.
Crisp is spotted by that.
Spooky Ghosts, yeah, are going to come in. The Glacial Augment, and immediately Splyce going to dive on it. Everyone avoids the Solar Flare, and the cage is just too much for the support on FPX's side.
And once again, really well set up. We keep mentioning it, but Kobbe's utility in this game is so high, and that means that the Baron Force now is available. Teleport will have to be burned here.
Yeah. 50% health bar now onto this Baron. You can see that Splyce do want to turn if they find anyone. They don't want to go for the 50-50, but it looks like they might just have to, as GimGoon already prepped the ultimate. Looking to try and get in there. We've seen this before. There was Tian early into this pit.
Oh!
Somehow the burst didn't work out, and now the dive bomb comes in. The shotgun into the backline, and there goes LWX. The fade away on the Void Seeker as well as Kobbe. Hit by the Sonic Wave and destroyed. Ace for FPX. Chinese first seed finds the team fight, finds the Baron, and they'll run it up the mid lane.
And LWX rights all the wrongs of day number 1, is able to come in, pick up the triple kill, and they will push their way into the base.
The wheels fall off for Splyce in the 4v5. They get ace, they lose the Baron.
I thought you were going to say lose the base. That would have been the rhyme there, Isaac. You were so close as Doinb cleans up the inner turret on the bottom side of the map. There is one more inner remaining, and FPX have flipped this game on its head now, a 3,000 gold lead. Let's see how it all happens.
And Tian's patient. He doesn't take the first Q, and you can see that it looks like they're burning important cooldowns. The zone control is there, but finally multiple areas, and the kick heard round the world through 3 members gets the knock-off on Tristana and allows the damage dealers to unload onto Splyce.
Yeah, Doinb flies in, LWX flies in, and saving that ultimate to the perfect moment. Tian even threading the Q around here to get the ace onto Kobbe. So well played, and FPX knows they needed a fight like that. The coaching staff so excited, knowing what it would mean if they were to go down 0-2 in the group.
That was like a yes, and then no. It did look okay from the beginning, so I can understand. I mean, there's no other real way to say it because things didn't quite work out for Splyce, but they're not going to lose their base. It's not even going to get broken here as inhibitor turrets are still going to stand. And I think that 0 is very glaring only on the Splyce side.
Yeah, and I mean, the question for me is why did Splyce 50-50? Why didn't they just turn to fight? You're in the 5v4. You've been doing so well the whole game.
But
why
kill
risk
Lee Sin? He's in the back of the pit. He couldn't get out anymore. He already safeguarded over.
Yeah. So certainly one they're going to be wanting back, but they are not out of the game just yet. They are heavily behind now off of what was an incredible swing in gold. I mean, look at the Baron power play. That is absurd. 7,600 gold already, and it's going to get bigger. This is one of the biggest ones I've ever seen.
And whilst they're not out of the game, their job becomes so much more difficult because that's a level 18 Ryze that is at 5.5 items. And Veigar is so much easier to play when you have an area of the map to set up around. Now it's going to be Doinb's real house. Rotate them around. You can see they're playing 3 lanes right now, even getting Renekton down bottom, despite the fact that no teleport is available. So as long as they don't get caught right now, it's going to be very easy to break into this base.
Yeah, and some of these defensive items just make it a more difficult job for Kobbe as well to find that big cage. QSS there for LWX. You see the Banshees fail as well for Doinb, so that's going to have to be poked off. And, you know, LWX has more of an ability to fly into that back line, knowing if he does even get caged up, he's going to have the QSS to remove that. And while you can put out incredible damage on the Veigar, you can also die almost instantaneously to either of these carries.
As Doinb just throws out the Realm Warp, just faking, heading towards this mid lane. But yeah, went for the Banshee's Veil instead of the Liandry's, wants to make sure that he can continue running at all of the CC that Splyce has available to them. That first one not going to be as effective. And then he's going to buy himself a pretty cool hat. So this wizard is going to be very strong come 6 items.
And I feel like that's very disciplined play from the FPX lineup. Obviously, in a best of 1, you have to make sure that you don't give the lead back. And this was a Baron power play used to knock down all the outer turrets and regain Dragon and Spawn Elder. Gives them another area of the map to be able to fight around. They didn't want to gamble with going for that all-out play. And you have to say that, you know, despite being a young lineup, they've been able to claw their way back into this one well, and now see whether, well, let's judge them on seeing how well they set up to break this.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, sometimes in these lineups, when you're having a ref tournament, having one big play like that can inject the confidence that you need to really up your level. And, you know, with some of these big luxury items coming through, you know, you have the GA now on Tian, so he can be more willing to kind of throw himself into that backline and try to kick a carry in at the expense of his life. And we'll see what FPX does with the lead.
And you can see, like, at the top of your screen, you see the 0-1 for FPX and the 1-0 for Splyce. And you might be thinking, well, FPX should be the weaker team. That is not how we should be looking at this match. Because FPX are coming in as China's first seed. They had an amazing season. And yes, they have a unique playstyle. Yes, they play around some really weird stuff that Doinb likes to throw out, some dark technology, if you will, but they have done it with aplomb for most of the year, and they deserve the respect and are finally showing us here in their second game at World.
And that's why it was never going to really be LWX's performance that sealed the deal for me on this team. It was going to be whether Doinb can have the standout performances that he needs. LWX is just a cleanup crew. He's a janitor that takes care of business after everyone else has thrown the party. And that's what we saw in the last team fight. Tian starting it off, Doinb with the big burst damage, and then it's just about the Kaiser being able to take down the low health members.
Yeah, he clicks on heads pretty well, does LWX. Pretty good at being that farmer for the last remaining kills, and it's all about Doinb and how he can pair with his jungler. Because you're right, Tian is a fantastic player and has shown already in this series what he can do on this Lee Sin.
And I think we can now expect FPX to start looking to get aggressive. Full Banshee's Veil bought up by LWX. The death cap completed there for Doinb. So, you know, this is about as strong as they are going to get at this point of the game. And Tian now looking for a flank here.
That Realm Warp, it's going to be straight into the baby cage, but Humanoid all by himself and destroyed. Doinb picks up that kill comfortably as Tian not going to be afflicted by the Lee Syndrome, just leaves the Sonic Wave there. They'll take their pick on the Tristana, and now Splyce, 4 versus 5. They get the hook onto Tian. Is the combo going to be enough? He has a GA and doesn't even need it as Xerxe has to go into his Zhonya's Crisp right into the middle of the fight, but LWX is free hitting, able to get the damage down. Double kill already. Doinb only missing a bit of his health bar, and GimGoon is a one-man wrecking crew. FPX dominate the fight. The hook lands, but that is not one you wanted to follow.
And that is a huge fight for them. You can see LWX immediately running mid lane to try to push up this minion wave. We'll see how much they want to go for. At minimum, they take mid inhib and can go back to the Baron. At maximum, they can try to continue the push here as Kobbe is still dead. And it looks like they're posturing for the end.
Yeah, looks like they're thinking about it. They don't want this game to go on for too much longer. 20 seconds on Kobbe, but that barrel was fantastic. The kick back! They collect Humanoid once again. His screen feels like it's permanently black and white as the first Nexus turret is going to go. 3 members of Splyce are still alive. Tian is going to get taken down, but it's the Nexus, the one thing standing between FPX and a 1-1 scoreline, and they'll finish it. Redemption for the first seed from China.
And redemption for the carry players of FPX. A much better mid to late game, and they show that they are superstars, that they're not afraid of the big stage, and they take their first win of Worlds 2019.
Feels like they have finally arrived after that one. Doinb and LWX in particular showcasing some incredible team fighting down the stretch. But you have to say, from the Splyce point of view, it felt like they were doing everything right until that Baron, and that is going to be the moment that they are looking back to constantly.
Yeah, and it's yellow and black colors, and it is a Baron throw. This is something that I know you, Isaac, are pretty comfortable with, seen these before. But that Baron was a huge problem for Splyce. They'll be VOD reviewing, they'll look back, they'll be like, guys, this is the moment that we have to fix. And I actually think that works in Splyce's favor because they know that those sort of big mishaps are the problem, and it's not necessarily how they play out the early stage of the game. But let's head over to the State Farm analyst desk for more on that game.
Thank you very much, Atlas, and don't worry, we're also going to take another look at that Baron turn, but in the end, Splyce give it away and FPX win.
I was so ready to stand on this analyst desk and give MVP to the coaching staff of Splyce. I was so ready to be like, that was an ingenious draft, Duke, welcome back, I'm amazed, and then that Baron throw happens.
But wait, aren't you still happy about the draft, even though they didn't win?
Yes, but it's like, also coaching involves the Baron setup.
But
So
he can't be there with them. He can't
40
be
minutes
there
removed.
with
You
them.
can't blame him for that one, really.
Okay.
I went through a few stages in this game. I spent the first 20 minutes saying, what is wrong with FPX? Like, are we sure this is the team that went 29-4 in the LPL? Are we sure that this is the team that was the best regular season LPL team from the region that won Worlds last year? Is Splyce really just that in meta, right? And then it kind of corrected itself at the Baron and afterwards, but for the first 25 minutes, I was doing some soul searching.
I mean, I get it, and I think we all kind of felt it, and I want to dive deeper into that after we go through the analysis because I think there's a lot to unpack, but pertaining to the game particularly, this is a bread and butter FunPlus Phoenix comp. Explain that to us.
I mean, those are all the signature champions that FunPlus Phoenix are known for, particularly Doinb's Ryze. You heard it on the caster desk. I'm going to say the exact same thing on the analyst desk. That is their champion pool.
And I think that was a really good thing to see because we wondered, do they throw out, the strategy that didn't work for them and actually veer away from the standard play style and try to go to a perceived tournament meta? Or do they just go back to FPX style? And it was good to see they stuck with it. And yet, it was a wild ride. We've had a couple today. We just came off the back of one in the TL series. So it took a lot of time to get going, and then it kind of needed an assistance, a handball from the side of Splyce to really kick into the sort of gear that happens much earlier. In fact, when we get to the replays, it was the bot lane play from Splyce that was the really big excitement of the early game, not the Doinb Ryze plays we're used to.
Yeah, I suggest we take a look at some of the moves in the early game. What also surprised me is how much emphasis FPX put in that top lane and spending time there and focusing the ganks there as well.
Yeah, here's what surprised me. FPX's entire final was about 4-man dives bot against Uzi and for LWX, and they seemed ill-prepared to handle Splyce's bottom lane focus and also funneled so much of their gold onto GimGoon, who I think his greatest strength is playing weak side top laner, so that whole early game was strange.
Because you look at this play, for example, Vizicsacsi gets the advantage out of this play because he gets the preferential lane state. And I gotta say, overall, the early game on both sides was pretty loose. There was definitely some skill errors, the lane spot error there. It was definitely not what we were expecting in the early game.
But then you started to kind of see how Splyce's composition is supposed to work.
And this was beautiful.
When you have a range advantage with the Tristana, and then you have the event horizon in front of it, the disengage from the Gragas, the lantern from the Thresh, and then a Gangplank ultimate on top of it, it's supposed to be about so much utility and zone control, and then slowly walking Tristana through people. And anytime Splyce were able to either get choke points or kind of set up their line of scrimmage, that's where their composition really thrived. But they also had to balance the ferocity of FPX. The amount of times that suddenly FPX would just flash on top of you and find plays in a split-second window.
And for Norskeren, we have a great example here with the box going down. The event horizon, I'm pretty sure cooldown was buffed in recent patches. It's just so frustrating for Renekton, Ryze, and other short-range champions to close the distance. And so much of this mid-game, we were prepping stats for what if a team goes 0-2 in groups. Only 3 have ever gotten out of groups from there. It really felt like FPX were going to send out their best shot twice in groups and get nothing done.
And I think that's why this game was really a mixed bag, because Splyce will want to build on what they accomplished pre-Baron throw. But there were also a few plays in there, like when we saw FPX was down 3,000 or 4,000 gold and Doinb would just Ryze ult into 3 or 4 things and they'd get a kill off of it. That's a play that only FPX can see and only FPX can make. But I just didn't expect them to be down 4,000 gold to the third seed team from the LEC.
The fact is you don't want to have to rely on those moments too often if you find yourself in that position.
I mean, to be fair, that is kind of FPX in the core of them. Yeah, they do have a snowball and they do tend to run away with games, but if you think about like Doinb's high moments and the soul of this team, it is the fact that they see those opportunities that others do not. The fact that they instantaneously jump on you and rip you apart in your setup.
Almost sounded like you were talking about G2 in moments because they also like to play in that, but there are differences here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% get it. If people didn't watch the LPL and they've seen these 2 games, you would definitely call FPX way overhyped because they have not shown, to me, the quality, even if they've shown the style that they showed in the LPL.
But if someone throws something at you, you just got to catch it. Let's take a look once again at this Baron replay.
Do we have to?
Yes, we have to.
With the Mountain Drake for Splyce right here, and with all the tools they could potentially have to get Tian out of the Baron pit, you have to put aggro onto the Lee Sin. You can't just let him sit there. Then the kick was huge.
And if you notice, they're spending so much time trying to move Doinb from the picture, and no one is trying to deal with the potential threat of Lee Sin over. And they have incredible amounts of CC and potentially flashes to just get over and stop him.
And this is what we've wanted for Splyce. We know that they're a consistent team. We want them to be a clutch team. When they have these big moments, when it comes down to clutch decision making.
But he gets in the pit with the Baron.
This kick was
I understand,
epic.
but this is why Fnatic and G2 have such a massive gap over Splyce, and these are the moments that they need to shore up. If they had the clutch decision making to go over the wall to kill the Lee Sin, this is a completely different tone and a completely different desk.
But they didn't even need to hit a higher level to stop that Baron. At 2,000 health, coming in, everyone seemingly distracted. Like, that was a pretty bread and butter play that they seriously fumbled, and the results were massive.
Once a VOD review for Splyce, indeed. The Oppo player of the game is Doinb, because even with the fault in that game, that entire team, and especially this man, they step up when it matters. And this is why...
Yeah, sorry, I thought that was the play that I saw in the mid game of the Ryze ult going in. This is just kind of the cleanup after they had already came back in the game, but I think he had over 100 CS advantage over Humanoid in the mid lane. He maxed out his bounty. You can see 509. Really, he was the one just kind of like willing FPX into that game.
And I don't think we have that much time left, but I do want to kind of talk about the state of FPX now in this group and looking forward. As said already, tipped as one of the favorites, coming from the region that won the World Championship and looking so strong domestically.
So we got LGD over here.
Yes.
Okay.
And we got IG here.
Okay, I'm speaking your language.
Right now, I feel like FPX is like wavering over here.
I think more to the left.
Maybe right there.
Yeah.
But I think their peak is still here. It's just, I'm questionable.
Well, when you see some of the plays they make here in the end, you know that that peak is there, right?
But you just look at it and it's like, okay, you lost your first game to J-Team, and then in this particular game, you needed a Baron throw just to get back into it. So in terms of proactive kind of starting and snowballing, which is the FPX bread and butter, they've done none of it.
Good point. I don't like to make excuses for teams either, but there is that factor of they're at Worlds for the first time. It is all very stressful, and they were in a game where they were behind and they fought their way back. Should we account much to that?
Yes, the nature of FPX's style is that because they're forced to fight you, you can't just gentleman's agreement and be like, we're not going to fight. If a team runs at you, it's going to break down and get messy. So I think that anytime you see FPX in a game, either they're going to massively crush opponents and just look like gods, or it's going to look like a very messy game, win or lose. So that should be the expectation. This is a very different dominance than the one of like the SKT pass. Like when SKT were dominant, it was because it was clean, it was methodical, and they just choked you out. FPX are not that team, even at their highs.
If anything, it's very entertaining, though. So it was a fun game to watch, and FPX walk away with the win. We are going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more Worlds 2019.
Really exciting to see, and this is exciting as well. It's Humanoid down towards the bottom side. The man in question is forced underneath this turret. The baby cage is beautiful. Now FPX setting themselves up for a dive on the top side of the map. Vizicsacsi knows exactly what's going on. The kickback, that Q's going to land as Doinb should be able to grab the kill. Their advantage is Tian's going to land a Q, but he's going to get hit by the hook. Just destroyed where he stands. The rest of Splyce able to get out of there, but do they even want to as they're winning this fight? Looking to try and get in there. We've seen this before. There was Tian early into this pit. Somehow the burst didn't work out, and now the dive bomb comes in. The shotgun into the backline, and there goes L
go, but never again. Back on our grind, you know what it is. We gotta win.